We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel. Ring that notification bell. Smash that like button. Share the video if you want to support this Rebel Outpost with a donation. Help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Hit that $sign where you make your comments, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Nebraska's Cornhuskers, Skaven, yes. You sure this time, Mad Gopher, you're going to stay on the air? No, I'm not sure of anything. I am not sure of anything. Transparency. I received an update from YouTube. Other YouTube content creators have gotten it before. I just got it yesterday, and I couldn't figure out what I was trying to figure out to get the blessed show on the air. I used YouTube AI to ask questions, and they were giving me a bunch of instructions. Eventually, AI said, oops, I gave you the old instructions. You have a newer version. hour after hour after hour after hour. Then this morning, I called Moen, Mr. Buckeye himself. And in 1 minute time, he pointed me to an icon, a simple icon. All I had to do was hit that simple icon, and then everything else worked. It took a 1 minute phone call with Moen. So thank you, Moen. For those who do not like this show, please send your hate mail to Moen because he saved the show. For those who enjoy college football, peek around the corner, please send something to Moen and thank him for saving this blessed channel. The original Minnesota moron is absolutely true. I couldn't figure it out. And why does YouTube have to send an update to this old moron here in Minnesota? YouTube, don't send me any more of your updates because I can't figure them out. All right? Leave it alone. Leave it alone. I don't need all these bells and whistles. I can barely turn the computer on, for God's sakes. Leave me alone. Okay, that's it for that. True transparency. I'm just letting you all know. The reason why we did not come on live yesterday during all this breaking news is because YouTube sent me an update and I was too stupid to figure it out. All right, enough of that. Sherrone Moore. Fired and in jail. Very, very, very difficult situation for his loved ones, I would imagine. He's got 4 kids and a wife. You all have known and read the details. I, on this channel, feel very uncomfortable talking about it because that's not what we do here. But it is important because he did get, from my perspective, he got fired. There's an opening at Michigan. That is big news. And he is in jail for potential, I don't know, possible assault, threatening, a domestic matter. And I'm not going to get into that. But this is college football's peek around the corner. And we got to talk about the Michigan opening job. It is a monster of a job. It is one of the top jobs in the country. And the coaching Michigan Hot Board 1.0 is simply this, in my opinion. It does not include Lincoln Riley. I think a lot of people got to get over. I would be absolutely shocked if Lincoln Riley's any. I think Lincoln Riley is actually happy where he is. And I think USC is happy with Lincoln Riley. I think the USC Trojans are about to take a turn and go to the top, near the top of the Big Ten. But I do think the Kalen DeBoer thing is serious. I think Kalen DeBoer is the number 1 candidate. Now, whether Michigan can land him, I don't know. But I think he's the number 1 guy. Jed Fish, another name, okay. There are other names out there, but I'm really looking at Kalen DeBoer. By the way, are the rumors true that Ty Simpson has a back injury? Is Ty Simpson the quarterback of Alabama? Does he have a back injury going in to that Oklahoma game? Keep an eye on the line. Keep an eye on the betting line in Vegas. I think the latest line was minus 2.5. Alabama on the road to Norman. Keep an eye on that line. If that line starts to drop to minus 1.5, even Oklahoma favored by a point, 1.5, there might be some steam to that. I agree. I don't think Lincoln Riley is going anywhere. Technology is hard. Laura Weiss, it's not hard for you all. The PATC family is very intelligent. Most of you are a lot younger than I. Look, I'm 57 years old. I'm right at the cutoff line. When I went to high school, we used typewriters. When I went to college, I graduated in 1991. We did not have our laptops. We were writing the blue books. We were writing everything. I had notebooks stacked up. We did not video it. We did not take a tape. It was all notes. I did not learn all this computer jazz. Anyways, thank you, Dad. Gygax is in the house. I'm older than you are, Greg. Well, okay, you are maybe, Laura, but you're a lot smarter than I am. That's obvious. That is obvious. So there's Sharon Moore. Let me know what you think. Now, there are people here who don't think that DeBoer isn't leaving Bama. Stephen Vitt. I don't see that happening. I don't see it happening either, except for a Michigan job. Kalen DeBoer is from the Midwest. I think that is some serious steam. We'll get back into this. Let me know about what you think. Who could be the replacement for Michigan? Now, I do see some college football reporters saying, who's running Michigan? Who is running the University of Michigan? Well, that's a new take, because the old take was Jordan Acker is a hero. Now it's who's running Michigan. I don't know who's running Michigan, but I do know that Jordan Acker is no hero. I think he's going to go down in infamy as passing up on the best possible conference-wide public capital deal there possibly could be put out there. Who is running Michigan? They don't have a president, and now Ward Emanuel might be in a little bit of trouble. I do not know. There's speculation out there that Michigan has known this for a while. It sounds like, according from University of Michigan officials, is that they finally had the evidence 24 hours ago that this relationship was definitely going on between a staffer and the head coach. But I don't know. I'm not going to really go into the deep weeds on that. PJ Fleck is staying exactly where he is, although he would love the job. Jerry Justice says, I would not leave. I would not go to Michigan. Bob Swanger says, I'm young. I'm a puppy. All right. I want to get into... I know this is a little old. This is what we were going to cover yesterday. Big 12 Brett Yormark calls out Notre Dame Pete Bevacqua. I know this is a day-old news, but again, I could not get up live yesterday, and I do want to talk about this. This was pretty big, guys. Notre Dame Pete Bevacqua is not just the athletic director of Notre Dame. In the eyes of of the governance of FBS football, Pete Bevacqua is basically Brett Yormark. When the commissioners meet on governance, when there's talk about the college football playoffs, Bevacqua is Brett Yormark's peer. When they needed to get to a solution of the 12-team playoffs, Notre Dame had to sign their name on the dotted line. So when you've got a commissioner calling out the athletic director of Notre Dame, it means a lot. This is big news. And I know it was covered yesterday, but I'm a little bit surprised it wasn't even covered even more, especially by the national reporters. Now, obviously, Yahoo Sports covered it. CBS Sports covered it. But this is a major news that happened yesterday. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark took issue Tuesday with Notre Dame Athletic Director Pete Bevacqua criticism this week of the ACC, calling his behavior egregious. After Notre Dame was left out of the college football playoff field in favor of Miami, who had a head-to-head win over the Fighting Irish, Bevacqua accused the ACC of favoring the Hurricanes over his school on social media and league programming. Yormark, speaking at the Sports Business Journal Intercollegiate Athletic Forum on Tuesday, took aim at Bevacqua, saying Bevacqua is totally out of bounds. Look at the words he's using. Look at the words that Brett Yormark is using. Totally out of bounds in his approach. And if he was in the room, I'd tell him the same thing. Wow. All of Notre Dame varsity sports, other than football, which is independent, and men's hockey, are members of the ACC. Since 2014, Notre Dame's football and ACC have had a scheduling partnership in which the Irish play at least 5 ACC opponents per season. Bevacqua has criticized the ACC in multiple media appearances since Notre Dame got snubbed, according to Bevacqua. During a news conference, he alleged the conference orchestrated a sustained, targeted social media campaign against the Irish program. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said in a statement Monday that the conference stands behind this effort to support and advocate for all 17 of our football playing member institutions. Yormark said Tuesday that he doesn't like how Notre Dame has responded and said the ACC saved it in 2020. The ACC saved Notre Dame when the Irish played a 10-game ACC schedule during COVID. Now again, this is not something that Yormark had to say. This event, the COVID event, is independent of what just happened between Bevacqua, the ACC, Notre Dame, and Miami. Why did Yormark bring up the COVID situation? I'll let you know what I'm thinking here. We're almost done with the article. But again, he brought up something that is completely, totally independent of the events of the past 72 hours of the past 3 weeks. Yormark said that college football playoff chair Hunter Yurachek was transparent about the committee's logic. Finally, in the article, I think his behavior has been egregious, Yormark said. Again, Yormark chose the word egregious. The chair said that as Notre Dame and Miami got closer together, head-to-head would be a factor. Okay. Yormark noted that one of his own Big 12 teams, BYU, also was excluded from the CFP based on the committee's criteria, despite going 11-2, with its only losses to number 4 Texas Tech. Once in November and again in the Big 12 championship game, BYU lost, Yormark said. They became closer together, head-to-head, made a difference in that decision. You've got Yormark. He could not have come out with stronger words. He could not have come out with stronger words. Now, let's talk real politique. Let's talk Machiavellian. Let's talk cloak and dagger. The only entity, well, there's two entities, I should say. The two entities that would like to support Notre Dame, to keep the status quo as it is, with Notre Dame being a quasi-football independence and the rest of the sports dumped in the ACC. The two entities that want that to continue is, number one, the ACC, obviously. Number two, the Southeastern Conference. The Big 12 has no interest in the status quo surviving for another 30 years when it comes to Notre Dame and its relationship with the ACC and what the Big 12 believes, and a lot of people believe, as special treatment for Notre Dame. That's why Yormark said what he said. These interweb reports, these rumors, these characters saying that the Big 12 has been in discussions with Notre Dame about this. Come on, man. Big 12 has not been in discussions with Notre Dame. No Big 12 president or Brett Yormark would ever believe that Notre Dame would do anything with the Big 12. They're not. They're not. The Big 12 is not interested in that. They know that that's not even a possibility. What the Big 12 does know, is that the Notre Dame relationship with the ACC is helping support ACC stay status quo as long as possible. In the Big 12, Brett Yormark, the commissioner, he's got to look out for the best interests of the Big 12 institutions. That's Brett Yormark's job. So before anybody says he's greedy, before anybody says he's evil, like everybody says about Tony Petitti, it is Brett Yormark's job to look out after the Big 12 institutions. It was best for the Big 12 institutions. It was best for the Big 12 institutions that they were able to get Colorado, Utah, Arizona State. That's the truth. It was best for the Big 12 institutions, for the Big 12 to leap ahead of the Pac-12 when it came to the exclusive window to get that deal done with Fox and ESPN. Brett Yormark served the Big 12 institutions' interest. What also serves the Big 12's interest is Notre Dame and the ACC, that relationship expiring. That would serve the Big 12's interest. So Brett Yormark is going in there and saying that Bevacqua's comments about the ACC are egregious. Out of bounds. Totally out of bounds. Once again, Brett Yormark is playing the long game. Why I am so confused about Brett Yormark's position on the college football playoffs. Let me get into this. Brandon Marcello. First of all, he reports yesterday the ACC, Jim Phillips, says here in Las Vegas wants the college football playoff to expand next season instead of waiting until 2027. Jim Phillips wants the college football playoffs to expand now for next year. For next year. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark tells CBS Sports he also wants the college football playoff to expand next season. Well, so does the Big Ten. So does the Southeastern Conference. The problem is Notre Dame does not want an AQ format. They have no reason to be for it. They're not part of a conference. Notre Dame is not part of a conference. They just want to go from 5+11 to 5+7. Why would Notre Dame encourage, again, Notre Dame has got to look out for Notre Dame. Why would Notre Dame encourage conference races to become more important? Why would they encourage that there's a certain amount of qualifiers in the ACC and the Big 12? They don't want that. Notre Dame doesn't want that. Jim Phillips has come out and said he is for a playoff AQ model, a bigger one, but everybody's AQ has got to be the same. And Brett Yormark has basically said the same thing. And the Big Ten is saying, okay, good, fine, let's go. Let's do it. But the Southeastern Conference and Notre Dame are on one side of the river. Big Ten is on the other side of the river. And Jim Phillips and Brett Yormark have a boat and they're floating down the river. They were for 5+11. They can't quite come out for the 2014 playoffs. But the interest of Notre Dame does not coincide with the interest of the Big 12. They really never have. So Brett Yormark, of course Brett Yormark knows this. His presidents know this. Their athletic directors know this. They've been gaming the future out. The Southeastern Conference has been gaming it out. Notre Dame has been gaming it out. The Big Ten, the ACC, as much as they possibly can. The interests of the Big 12 and the Notre Dame really never connect at all. And now we've got news from Dan Wolken, which again in itself is not all that big in news, except it kind of is. Yahoo Sports. After learning of Notre Dame's memorandum of understanding that grants the Irish provincial playoff access starting next year, athletic directors in other leagues are threatening to freeze Notre Dame out of future schedules, per Dan Wolken. And then Dan Wolken doubled up on it, saying this is actively happening within the leagues. The memorandum of understanding plus Bevacqua press tour not going over well across college sports. Okay? Now, the actions of some athletic directors freezing out Notre Dame, from my perspective, it's not really going to happen. I mean, I would be shocked if anybody would cancel a game with Notre Dame because of the provincial treatment. Look, Notre Dame next year, if they are ranked number 11th in the country, okay, of the playoff selection committee, in the last rankings, if they are number 11, or number 12, if they're number 12, they're going to make it to the playoffs. Even though a G5 representative is going to take one of those playoff spots, Notre Dame is going to make the playoffs. While any other team at number 12 would not make the playoffs. If Notre Dame is in the top 12, they get in, no matter what. But if that happened to Rutgers, if that happened to Mississippi, if that happened to California, if that happened to UCLA, they would not be in the playoffs. But for Notre Dame, it would be. So people are pissed about it. First of all, it's a memorandum of understanding. It's not really legit quite yet. And number two, I think the playoff committee would probably take care of that problem. But again, I don't think anybody is going to be taking Notre Dame off their schedule. What athletic directors are talking about it? I can't imagine it's any of the ACC athletic directors. I can't imagine Boston College, Wake Forest, North Carolina State, North Carolina. I can't imagine them saying, well, we're going to take that scheduling agreement. We're going to say, no, we're taking Notre Dame off, especially when they have that unequal revenue sharing system going on. I can't imagine any SEC school doing that because Notre Dame has got Southeastern Conference schools lined up. Could there be a potential, some Big 12 teams, Big 10 teams? Maybe. Bunch of Big 12 teams? Yes, but they don't really have that lined up with Notre Dame. I guess what I'm trying to say, the story in itself, the direct repercussions of it, I think are extremely, extremely, extremely limited. That is correct, Scott Lesnar. I heard Notre Dame's agreement about being in the top 12 for 2026 only applies if the playoff stays at 12 and go to 14. If they go to 16, that provision is thrown out. Yep, that's what I've heard as well. I don't think the Southeastern Conference would take them off the schedule because the Southeastern Conference does not have a beef with Notre Dame. But we shall see. I will say this. The story itself, the implications, the ramifications of athletic directors freezing Notre Dame out in their scheduling is not the exit ramp for Notre Dame to take action to leave their quasi-football independence. It's not. But it's another example of an exit ramp leading to an exit ramp, leading to another exit ramp, leading to another exit ramp, that we believe here at Peek Around the Corner, Notre Dame is going to have to leave their quasi-football independence. They're going to have to leave that at some point. The walls have been closing in on Notre Dame for quite a while. The event that just happened, where Notre Dame believes they got screwed. And by the way, as we reported here, Father Dowd is appalled at ESPN. All that is true. All that has been confirmed. All that is real. But not one of these one events is going to lead Notre Dame to pulling the ultimate trigger and to join the conference in their football program. I think what is eventually going to lead Notre Dame there is when there's a material change in the ACC roster of schools. Because Notre Dame can barely make it work right now with their relationship with the ACC. Bevacqua has done damage. He talks about permanent damage with the ACC. And then he walked it back a little bit. Now he's saying it's strained. Now he's saying, yes, it's repairable. But he talked about how there was a permanent damage. He should not have used that word. Notre Dame fans are now pissed off at Bevacqua because he did not bring the deliverables. He did not deliver in that press conference. The day before, he talks about permanent damage, and then he didn't even talk about it, really talk about it in his press conference. Bevacqua, Notre Dame, they are getting in a more and a more of a difficult spot. But that leads us to the expansion of the college football playoffs. Because if Brett Yormark really wants to put the screws to Bevacqua, if he really wants to put the screws to Bevacqua, if Brett Yormark really wants to call out Pete Bevacqua, if Brett Yormark really wants to take action against Bevacqua, then Brett Yormark comes out and says, damn it, 4 AQs for the Big 12, 4 for the ACC, 4 for the Southeastern Conference, 4 for the Big 10, 2 for the G6, and 6 at-large spots. Brett Yormark has got to come out and say, I want the Big 12 conference play to be as valuable as possible. So the next time I go to negotiations, I've got that in my pocket. The committee can try to figure out the 6 at-large spots. The Southeastern Conference is going to be in a great position to grab most of those 6 at-large spots. Some years it could be the Big 10. Some years it could be the Big 12. Some years it could be the ACC. Brett Yormark has got to come out and say the 4-4-4-4-4-4-4-4-4 does not, it only equalizes the floor. It does not equalize the conferences. Brett Yormark has got to come out. Look, they're all meeting. There's 6 weeks left to figure out the college football playoff. If they really want to expand it, it's got to be an AQ format in large part. Why would Yormark be for anything different? That's what I'm completely confused on. The time is now, Yormark. The time is absolutely now. Bevacqua is on his back. He's on his heels. His influence has waned. That's why I'm bringing up the freeze out. That's why I'm bringing up the athletic department, athletic directors, trying to freeze them out on scheduling. Bevacqua is on his heels. And eventually you're going to need the Southeastern Conference to agree to this. But if there's any chance of that happening, everybody else besides Notre Dame has got to be together on this. 4-4-4-4-2-6. The Southeastern Conference, most of the they're going to have the advantage from the 1 through 8 having a first round bye, second round home game. They're going to have the advantage of getting most schools from 9 through 16 to have a first round home game. Barely any of the SEC schools are going to be 17 to 24 to have to go first round on the road. This helps the Southeastern Conference. It helps them flex. All those Southeastern Conference home games on campus in the first round and then some in the second round, you don't think that doesn't help the Southeastern Conference schools, the economy, the local economy of those, of Oxford, of the other, come on. And my question is to Tony Petitti. Tony Petitti. It has always been a long shot. This has always been a long shot for you to get your large AQ model format in the books. It's always been a long shot. You have been called pathetic. You have been called absurd. But you have got, this is the most traction you have ever gotten on this idea. Now is not the time to fold. Brett Yormark really wants the expansion of the playoffs. So does Phillips. They need to get to 16. They really need it. So use that. Say, I'm not only will I get to 16, let's go to 24. An AQ format with 16 teams doesn't quite work. The reason for the AQ model, the 16 doesn't quite work, is number one, you do not have the incentives of getting a first round bye. That is gone. In the 12-team playoffs, the top 4 teams get a first round bye. All the incentives in the world to get those top 4 seats. In a 24-team playoffs, the top 8 teams get that first round bye. All the incentives in the world in intrigue on who's going to get the top 8 spots. But in a 16-team playoffs, there is no incentive. That's number one. Number two, what type of AQ model are you going to use? A 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 7? You're going to have the committee select 7 at-large bids? And right now, they're doing 7 at-large bids on a 5+7. Only the 2 teams going to the conference championship games are going to get the automatic bids for the Power 4 conferences. Again, that is not a step up from what we have now. That doesn't help the cause. That does not help with bringing in more value for your conference games. Does a 3-3-3-3 plus 1 plus 3 work? 16-team playoff. 3-3-3-3 plus 1 plus 3? That doesn't work either. The reason that format doesn't work because the Southeastern Conference would say hell no. I think the Big Ten Conference would say hell no. Because 3 at-large bids are not big enough. It's not big enough for the Southeastern Conference. They're not going to be able to flex on that. You are now punishing the best football conference in the country with a 3-3-3-3-1-3. The 16-team playoffs does not work with a larger AQ model. It doesn't work. We've been through this. And I got a feeling that a lot of reporters have not gone through all this. Like they haven't done the work on this. 16 is not large enough. 16 is not large enough for this new world of college football where the talent is all spread out, and it doesn't work with the large AQ model with 4 Power 4 conferences. It doesn't work. But the 24 team works beautifully on all different angles. And I think the Big Ten finally got to that position on it. I think they've looked at everything. And I think they're actually correct. The evil empire of the Big Ten, Tony Petitti, who's been dragged through the coals, I think he's actually correct on this. Now, can we get there? Can the Army of 24 get there? I don't know if we're going to be able to get there next year or the year after, but someday I think we're going to get there. Someday I think Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips is going to find their voice on this. Georgia and Louisville. Brett McMurphy. Georgia and Louisville mutually cancel their home-and-home series in 2026-27. Also, Georgia and North Carolina State cancel their home-and-home series in 33 and 34. You can't blame Georgia for canceling these football games. The Southeastern Conference is going to 9 conference games. Georgia's going to be playing Georgia Tech. Of course Georgia's going to cancel these games. But then I said, lot less likely this non-conference game is canceled under the Army of 24. 4-4-4-4-2-6. 2 bites of the apple, college football playoff format. I ain't saying, just saying. Because if Georgia has that Louisville game in 26 and 27, if Georgia has that North Carolina State game in 33 and 34, and the Bulldogs win those games, oh boy, that's really going to help them if they don't quite finish in the top 4 of the Southeastern Conference, which is a difficult task, but they can get into that +6. They can get into that large spots. The huge at-large reservoir, which is 6, helps keep the value of the non-conference games. The 4-4-4-4 helps the value of the conference games, which, by the way, is the most games that any of our teams play except for Notre Dame. 2 bites of the apple college football playoff format. 16 doesn't do it. 12 doesn't do it. You don't need 28. You don't need 32. You don't need 36. You don't need 64. And then you got people talking about, well, great. If you have 24, there's still going to be schools being very upset that they did not make the playoffs. Of course there is. That's not the argument. I saw Mike Gold. I'm seeing all these college football people saying, well, if you move it to 16, you're still going to have bickering on 16, 17, and 18. Yes, of course. Nobody's arguing against that. But if you do a playoff of 24, the Army of 24, the 4-4-4-4-2-6, the teams that don't quite make it, it's still going to be heartache. There's still going to be intrigue. There's still going to be drama. But at the end of the day, you're going to be able to say to that school, yeah, you did not quite make it. You did not quite get that at-large spot. But you know what? You did not get the top 4 spots in your conference. So you had 2 bites of the apple. Do you know what school did not get 2 bites of the apple this year? BYU. BYU did not get 2 bites of the apple. Alabama did. And I got no problem with Alabama getting 2 bites of the apple. They lost that Florida State game. That really hurt them. But they finished number 1 seed in the Southeastern Conference, so they should be in. But BYU deserved 2 bites of the apple. There's a whole bunch of teams out there that deserve 2 bites of the apple. Now, let me get into, before we move on, because there's a whole lot more. Yes, I really wanted 4 teams in the ACC to make it. Absolutely. No question about it. No question about it. Why is that? Why would I really want 4 ACC teams to make the playoffs? Well, number 1, before the start of the season, before it would happen, great question, son of Sarek. But before the season, oh God, no, I hold on. Before the start of the season would happen, the ACC schools would know that a top 4 placement gets them into the playoffs. They would know that in this large, imbalanced schedule of the ACC, the top 4 would get you in. You still need to use tiebreakers. Georgia Tech is number 22 in the nation. Miami is number 10 in the nation. Virginia is number 19 in the nation. So there's really no problem with at least 3 of those teams being in the 2014 playoffs. But they would know exactly where they stand. They would look at the conference race, and if they did good in the non-conference games, they know if they did not finish in the top 4, they would be part of the +6, and that is Miami. Miami Hurricanes. If they would have lost another conference game, they would not be in the top 4, but they would probably still be in the +6. 2 bites of the apple. They should be credited for beating who they beat in non-conference play. I would have no problem with the ACC getting 4 this year, 4 next year, 4 after that. Let me get to some very generous. We've got Eva Badger, 5 gifted membership. Whoever got the gift memberships from Eva Badger, please say thank you to Ryan Willie, very kind soul in Wisconsin, the best Eva Badger in the business. Please say thank you to Eva Badger, and all of you are knighted Cloak and Dagger, new members of our program. Very much appreciate it. Eva Badger, thank you so very much. So very much. I appreciate your incredible generosity to the program. You have always been very supportive of us. Thank you, Eva Badger. Thank you, sir. Very much. Thank you, sir. Very humbled by your support. And we've got a super chat. Ryan, I am proud of the way Notre Dame has handled this. There is a ton happening behind the scenes. We are looking at pushing for material breach. That is our strategy to push the gore and exit fee down. Thank you, Ryan, for the $10 holler. I very much appreciate it, sir. If Notre Dame is truly doing things behind the scenes, looking for an exit to get the exit fee down and look to get out, okay, that would be, I would have to look at this differently, right? But eventually he's going to have to deliver. Because when you say permanent damage and you do not bring any deliverables, then you are going to start losing your credibility. We saw it with Kliavkoff in the Pac-12. Remember during the Pac-12 situation where he kept promoting the fact that the Pac-12 is getting closer and closer to a media deal? I had to come on here on the live show day after day after day, and I was telling you all per Arizona State Money Perch and other chatter behind the curtain that the Pac-12 wasn't getting any deals that they could possibly present to the presidents because they were god-awful. And that Kliavkoff was basically, and Pac-12 presidents and Pac-12 athletic directors were talking to the press saying, is what Kliavkoff telling us is true? That we're about to strike a deal? And the reporters are saying, not according to ESPN, not according to Fox, not according to anybody. Basically ESPN has jumped out of the arena. They're not even offering the Pac-12 much of anything. So Kliavkoff eventually lost the room. That's the danger of Bevacqua at Notre Dame. He has said he's put up a very high bar. Permanent damage. And now a lot of Fighting Irish fans out there are expecting this leadership to act. And if what is Ryan is saying it comes out to be true, okay. Bevacqua is not going to lose the room at South Bend. The alumni are now involved. Thank you for the $10 holler for your support, Ryan. I very, very much appreciate it. Okay. Now, let's stay in ACC country. We are going to get to phone calls at some point, but guys, I could not do a live show yesterday because I could not figure out the update that YouTube gave me because I am the original Minnesota moron. I do apologize for yesterday. So we are trying to catch up here. Sorry, but we have to talk about this. Brandon Marcello. ACC Jim Phillips says that they've had multiple convos with private equity. If there are ways to run our business, the business of college sports better, we would be well served to listen to those who are experts in that area. Listening, learning, informing presidents, he says. But this is the PATC money shot of this morning. The ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips says private equity is not the boogeyman. If people are coming to you to try to help you, you should listen. As we have explained here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, there are major important institutions in the Atlantic Coast Conference who are true believers in getting expertise into their room. And along with that, their cash. And along with that, you got to give them some sort of stake, this third-party entity. Much like what the Big Ten tried to do and should have done. Much like what Utah just did, a lot riskier endeavor by Utah. But there are major, valuable institutions that are believers in this. North Carolina is one of them. Wake Forest is another. Duke is another. North Carolina is the big enchilada. Jim Phillips is trying to keep this conference together. They're trying to figure out a conference-wide type of deal that could keep this thing together. North Carolina is interested in that. Remember, we talked about it, how North Carolina leans Southeastern Conference, but there is a faction at North Carolina that would love to keep the conference together. I think that faction is eventually going to lose, but we'll see. You've got institutions in the ACC that would kind of be for it, but then again, if you're going to do a conference-wide private equity deal, you're going to probably have to extend the ACC grant of rights out. And of course, Florida State don't want to do that. Clemson doesn't want to do that. But again, the private equity situation, the reality of it is that there are plenty of schools that are complete believers in it. And then there are those that are not. And it's driving a wedge inside of these conferences. There is a wedge inside of the ACC. And of course, the wedge in the Big Ten is quite obvious. Quite obvious. As we reported to you honestly, clearly, that most of the Big Ten schools were like, this is an absolute no-brainer, this UC investment. Absolute no-brainer, and Jordan Acker is off his rocker. That's what they truly believe. And the reason why people are a believer in this, the reason why Utah is a believer in what they did, the reason why the Big Ten institutions wanted to get it done, the reason why Jim Phillips really would like to get it done is because of the for-profit entity that it builds and the expertise, the connections, and the networking that you would get into the for-profit entity. That's the secret sauce. And that is the secret sauce that the National College Football Reporters did not want to, or they just completely avoided that part of the Big Ten deal with UC Investment. And that is what a lot of people are avoiding when it comes to the Utah part of this. Their donors are putting up money. Ortro Capital is putting up money. Everybody is incentivized to make more and more money. It's a for-profit entity, and you're bringing in people that have got a history of making money. Maybe they fail, maybe they succeed, but you're bringing in people who've got the connections, the networks, and the track record. Just like what your universities do when it comes to increasing your endowments. They do the same thing. They bring in private equity. But whether you believe this or don't believe it, believe this. There are schools that are absolute believers in doing this. And there's schools that are absolute not. And as we've talked about it for over a year, there's a cross-pollination going on here. There are schools in the Big 12 that are believers. We told you Utah has. We told you Utah was one of the believers. And look what happened. There are schools in the Big 12 over here. There are schools in the ACC over here that are true believers. There's schools in the Big 12 over here and the schools in the ACC that are not believers. So this third party, private equity, private capital, this whole issue is driving wedges into these conferences. Keep all that in mind. But I just wanted to show you that Jim Phillips statement. Man, he would love to pull off that deal. And then Amanda Krisovich elevates. Jonathan Marks says he's got a lot of texts yesterday after the Utah private equity deal from schools saying they were ready to talk. The fear, once again, let's just talk about Big 12 schools. Well, we can talk about Big 10 schools, but first let's talk about the Big 12 schools. The fear from Kansas and Kansas State and Oklahoma and Iowa State and the rest of the Big 12 schools. The fear is not that this Utah private equity deal is not going to work. The fear is it's going to work. What if it does work? What if Utah uses cash infusion to make sure they're loaded up? They're absolutely loaded up with the ability to hire who they want to hire, to build new premium boxes that was going to bring in more money. What if the fear is that Utah can bring in a whole new slate of new sponsorship inside its stadium deals, a better jersey patch deal because they're with this Ortro Capital? What if it does work? What if they can pay back? What if they make so much more money that the stake in the capital that the capital has does not affect them at all? In fact, in this deal, the donors in the Utah can buy back that stake that the capital firm has in 5 to 7 years. What if this does work? That's the fear. And that's why you've got other schools calling these firms now. And the door has been open, and other schools are going to go right through it. Other schools are going to do it. Eva Badger, we've got a super chat. There are too many bowls when the bowls start the same day of Army and Navy. In honor of my dad, go Army, beat Navy. Thank you, Eva Badger. I very much appreciate, again, your generosity. And yes, in memory and honor of my dad, go Army, beat Navy. Go Army, beat Navy. I'm wondering what year I'm going to be able to say go Army, beat Navy in honor of my dad without feeling emotional about it. It's been 2 years. It's been about 27, 28 months since my father passed away. I'm hoping that one of these times I can say, go Army, beat Navy without getting emotional about it. Thank you, Eva Badger. Thank you for your $5 holler. I very much appreciate it. We've got a very good question here from Mr. Monkey Says. Very good question. Greg, was Utah ever a believer in the Big 12 private equity, or were they only a believer in the Utah private equity? I can't. I don't know. I would say, Mr. Monkey Says, 90% speculation, 10% chatter, that Utah was a believer in Utah private equity and a best of the rest 2030 private equity. Like I say, there's been some cross-pollination between some Big 12 schools and some ACC schools. And by the way, a Utah private equity or any other, like a Kansas private equity or whatever, would not mean that they could not involve themselves in a conference-wide private equity. I think that could still happen. Also, and let's make it clear. Let's put it out there. It's out there. One of the reasons why Utah is doing this, well, one of the reasons why they're the first ones out of the gate, because there's other schools that are going to do this. It was always going to be whoever was going to break the seal, that was going to be the most difficult decision to make, to actually pull the trigger. But the reason why Utah had that motivation is because they don't want to let anything to chance. They're looking for the Big Ten invite. They're looking for that Big Ten invite. And as you know, I have not been shy about talking about how Utah is in the mix. They are a candidate. Doesn't mean they're going to get the Big Ten invite, but they definitely are in the mix. They definitely are. And Utah does not want to, they'd rather bet on themselves with near-term cash infusion. And they also want to show off their market. They also want to show off their brand value, their brand equity. If this deal works, if they're bringing in more money, Utah is basically saying, look how dynamic this market is, the Utah brand, we can bring in we can bring this money. So they're really, every day is a job interview. This is Utah's job interview to get a Big Ten invite in the next 3-4 years. Within the next 3 or 4 years. So that has also played a part in Utah pulling the trigger. Okay. All right. Let's, and we've got more to get to. I I should have brought this up earlier. I apologize. Matt Fortuna on the ACC Notre Dame communications. But I think it's more complicated. Everything about social media campaign, etc. is true. From my understanding, the ACC was very sloppy with it. They accidentally CC'd Notre Dame on some of these conference-wide emails. They did the old accidental reply all thing. Not good, exactly. That really rubbed Notre Dame folks the wrong way. So let's end this monologue circling back to the Notre Dame situation. Sherrone Moore has been fired. We believe Michigan Hot Board 1.0 number one is Kalen DeBoer. I think he's number one on the list with a bullet. Okay? With a bullet. And we talked about the Sherrone Moore. I don't really want to go in the deep weeds on that. Not something we quite cover at College Football Peek Around the Corner. But it's important because there's an opening at Michigan. Sherrone Moore is in jail. He's in the county jail. I don't think he's been arraigned yet. He might have been since I've been live. I don't want to put out any disinformation, bad information out there, but that's about what I'm not really going to talk about that anymore. The opening at Michigan is a monster event in college football, especially on Thursday, December 11th. My God, you've got Kalen DeBoer, Alabama. Ty Simpson might have an injury. Alabama at Norman. You've got Jed Fish, a possibility. You've got Lincoln Riley, I don't think is much of a possibility. I don't know, we'll see. But again, a monster story that we got to cover. But let's get back to the Notre Dame thing. As we reported about 4 weeks ago, when Mr. Bryce, Notre Dame beat writer, Sports Illustrated, when he came out on a podcast, when he came out writing about it, that Notre Dame was pissed off, we poked and prod. They were pissed off at the ACC. We poked and prod, and we came and re-reported to you all that that information was absolutely true. Notre Dame being pissed off at the ACC has been going on for quite a while. We also reported that Notre Dame has told the ACC that, and Bevacqua confirmed that when he said yesterday in the press conference, I had told Phillips that a few weeks prior, that they did not like the fact that they felt like they were being targeted. And yet the ACC network put that game on a loop. The ACC social media kept pointing out the advantages that Miami had over Notre Dame, which personally I have no problem with any of it. But that is why Notre Dame is like, we put it out there, we let them know we were upset about it, and yet nothing changed. Notre Dame is pissed off. And the ACC, well, Jim Phillips says we're not going to talk about it anymore. The ACC is hoping this withers away, hoping nothing more comes of it. They do not want Notre Dame to do anything drastic. They don't want Notre Dame to send them a check. They don't want Notre Dame to send them a check to get out of the conference. Because Notre Dame has the same right as Florida State, Clemson, and anybody else to write the ACC a check. And the ACC has to accept the check, and Notre Dame would be out of the conference. The ACC doesn't want that to happen. The Southeastern Conference does not want that to happen. The Big Ten does want that to happen. The Big 12 does want that to happen. So we are going to keep an eye on this, the whole Notre Dame situation. I would not say it's DEFCON 1. I would say it's DEFCON 3. athletic directors getting together to try to freeze Notre Dame out of scheduling. Again, that story in itself is not really a needle mover. But when you are having that type of reaction across college football, where people are getting more and more pissed off at Notre Dame's perceived special arrangement, it might lead Notre Dame to go to an exit ramp, to another exit ramp, to another exit ramp that leads to a highway out of the ACC. One more story, and this is about football. Finally about football. Indiana star defensive lineman Stephen Daly will likely miss the remainder of the season, Kirk Cinetti announced. Daly suffered a potential leg injury on a freak incident as he walked around the stadium, giving high fives to fans after the Hoosiers win. Wow. Daly played such a monster game against the Buckeyes. This is a huge loss. Huge loss for the Indiana Hoosiers as they get ready to play the winner of Oklahoma or Alabama. Ryan, the Irishman, is DEFCON 1.5. I can't quite get there yet. We got it at DEFCON 3. He was injured, Stephen McNeely. He was injured. Notre Dame and Utah, what a pair of discussions. Now that Utah has sold out their equity to greedy capitalists, then I suppose the fans will pay a heft price if they want to watch Utah play. Yeah, ticket prices may go up. Yep. And again, this is Utah, cash infusion. A percent of their future earnings will go to the capital firm. A percentage of their but again, their donors are buying a stake in it. Instead of donors giving money to athletic departments, donors are possibly now going to be buying ownership of the athletic department. In some ways, that is what's going on at Utah. Donors, there's donor fatigue out there, guys. They're giving money and money and money and money and money and money and money. But now if there's a way for them to give money, but yet they're partial stake owner, that probably is the future. It could be the future. And we're going to find out if it works at Utah. Okay. Phone lines are open, and I'm hoping they're working. I did not test them before we came on live today. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Let me know what y'all are thinking. Breaking news all over the place. Breaking news all over the place, and I don't think it's going to stop for quite a while.
From
Rick.
Rick is on the line. The floor is yours. How you doing, sir?
Oh, we're doing good. Although you might have a problem on the USS Flugar.
USS Flugar. Am I sinking it? Is because of my weight? The fat guy from Minnesota? Am I sinking my own ship?
I think Rick may be starting a mutiny.
Okay. All right. All right.
I committed to Team 24,
Yes. Army of 24, baby.
Army of 24. Sorry,
Yep.
Army of 24. Yeah, I'm wavering.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Here's what I want, and I need you to talk me off the ledge.
Got it.
But I want to go for it all. I want Sankey to call up Petiti and in a private conversation say, yeah, Pete, Tony, maybe you were right. Maybe you were right. And let's you and I pull the trigger on a 442211. Devil takes the hindmost.
Wow.
If they take us to court, they take us to court. We stay as we are for the 12 game. But we're together on 442211. The Big 12 and the ACC have proven last year and this year they're not worthy of more than two.
Well, let's be okay. So the ACC and the Big 12 would not support this. Now, it could still pass without their support. But they're not going to support it because they just came out again saying it has to be equal.
No, I know, but I'm saying, what are they going to do about it?
Yeah. Now, my question is would the Big Ten do that now?
Well, my question is, why wouldn't the Big Ten do it now?
Because I think they've gotten some traction on our big dream. I think they feel they may have some traction there. I don't know if they want to.
Well, if that's the case, then you use this as a backup plan. If you're Petiti, then you say, do the 24 or do the 442211. Pick one.
It's the 442213.
Is that 16? Yeah, 442213. No, that goes to
16.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. My number's in there. Yeah, you're correct. You are correct. 442213.
But
no,
it's a very unique. It's interesting.
It meets Sankey's needs. It gives him 4 plus the
3 at large.
The 3 at large.
It doesn't really contour to the new talking points, which I think are accurate, of Tony Petiti in trying to elevate conference games. And it doesn't really help the Big 12 and ACC enough. But I get it. I mean, real politique, they could get that through. That could be what. Interesting, Rick. Very interesting.
Well, I say it from the point of Tony Petiti saying, I'm calling the shots. These are the 2 options. The third option is leave it as it is. You make the call, Greg Sankey.
Yeah.
You make the call, Sankey. Because all that matters is you and me.
I don't know if that works.
What do you do if you're Sankey?
Huh?
What do you do if you're Sankey?
I don't know. I'm not. Sankey would probably. I don't know, because his athletic directors like that idea. 13 out of 16 of them, but their coaches did not like it because their coaches believe they're going to get all these at-large bids when it's 5+11. The problem is the Southeastern Conference is going to 9 conference games.
Yep.
There's going to be more conference games than ever in college football, but yet we don't want to make the conference races valuable. It makes no sense. Rick, I understand what you're saying. Sankey may go for that over 5+11.
Go for what?
But I'm hoping Tony Petitti doesn't go for that.
You would rather Tony Petitti keep it as it is?
Keep it as it is, baby. 12 teams. Don't fold. Hold, Army of 24. Hold your positions. But then again, I'm a radical, Rick. I'm a radical.
No, there's nothing wrong with that if you're willing to go all the way.
All the way, baby. All the way.
Okay, let's let the other callers in.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it. Here's my thing. Tony Petitti he's playing a Texas Hold'em, okay?
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant. Can you hold on for a moment, please?
Sure, Greg.
You got it. Thank you, buddy. I'm saying this is Tony Petitti's been playing Texas Hold'em and he's got a 2-7 offsuit. That's the hand he's playing with. But suddenly now there's another hand that's been dealt. There's been another hand that's been dealt. And I'm not saying Tony Petitti is holding a pair of aces. I think he might be holding a jack of clubs and a queen of clubs. Maybe we can put together a flush. Maybe we can put together straight. He's got a little bit more of a chance now. I don't want him to fold. I don't want him to fold under the 5+11 pressure and even revisiting the 4-4-2-2-1-3. I want Tony Petitti to hold. If that means that you have to become the most evil person out there once again and say no to conference expansion unless I get it my way, then say no. Simply say no. Let's keep it at 12. Let's keep it at 5+7. Come on, Tony. Hold your position. Mr. Hurricane is on the line. Rock and Rant. He's getting ready for the playoffs. Texas A&M and the Miami Hurricanes. I cannot wait. What say you, sir?
Well, man, oh man, college football. The last 28 days needs a documentary.
Yeah.
There's 3 documentaries within the documentary, and maybe a 4th. So, a couple of things. First, I'm not opposed to your 24 plan, right? Just to be clear, just to reset the ground.
Yep.
My only thing ever was being completely fundamentally opposed to the 4-4-2-2 Tony Petitti because it was a death knell for the conferences. And I want to go to that for one quick second under the ACC and Big 12, you guys are crazy if you wanted to do the 5-11 thing. You're never going to get stuff. What is Yormark doing? I have a question for you. Did anybody out there look at the final past the top 12? If 5-11 existed this year, the Big 12 would have had 3, and we'd be having a debate about whether Arizona or Southern California should have gotten the 4th spot. So you guys are all crazy. Why would you do that? You're never going to get everything. These conferences will never get anything more than 2. They should just take them. Yormark just got proved this year. Sorry about the fire truck going by my house.
No problem.
Great timing. Yormark and not so much for the ACC, but the test case was right there. If it was 5-11 this year, Brett Yormark would have defended his conference not being on paper inferior, they would have had BYU, Texas Tech, and Utah in, and there would be a debate about should 16th ranked USC have gotten over 17th.
I don't think
Arizona.
Utah would be in because you would have two conference champions still in it.
Oh, you're right. I'm taking out the conference champion part of that. I am just
okay.
But you'd and you have the situation still with the Duke thing, right? But on paper, though, in the top 16 teams, it's a different scenario where the ACC is not on crack, right, with the tiebreakers. So I do think it's unfair that the ACC is the only one getting those shots. All the Power Four conferences have the same exact kind of crap going on with their tiebreakers. ACC just got the bad roulette wheel. But just on paper, Big 12 has 3 within the top 15 right now, and their fourth one is just on the inside looking out. You would have had a heightened conversation, which I don't know the playoff committee did, nor did we, about the debates between 14, 15, and 16, of which Big 12 might have won if people were putting those same scrutinies and head-to-head and stuff together. So I just wanted to point out. And then if you look further, right, Big 10 would have only gotten 1 more in that same scenario, and then USC would have been the one booted out, right? So they still would have only had 3.
Yep. But let me push back a little bit. I never said the Big 12 would never do better than the 4-4-2-2-1. I said personally that over time I don't think they would do better than the 4-4-2-2-1. But I also understand the argument that you could not do that because it devalued your conference and everything. So I get that.
Yeah,
I get that.
I mean like I mean the proverbial, like the greater PATC community debate that was going on. We have the example right now that was just fundamentally wrong, potentially depending upon championship scenarios. And also remember, what we don't know is what happens to, we know the rules right now. We know the stupid MOU. MOUs are really dangerous. They're not necessarily guaranteed for whatever it matters to Notre Dame. I won't trigger people in the chat about what MOU debates we've had over the last year in various forms. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting on there. So, and then the one thing I wanted to bring up, and we can talk about anything else, I can hang up and let others talk, is the whole would I ever have been perceived by you or anyone in the community as a defender, apologist for the ACC?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, I see Stephen's comment. I'm not cherry picking. I'm just using the first year everybody talked about the whole model.
Yeah.
It already shows up right now as an incorrect thing. I was asking you, would I ever be perceived to be, in your mind, a defender of Jim Phillips in the ACC?
I think you take it issue by issue, which I like to think that I do as well. But I think you take it issue by issue. No, you are not a. I'm
not a blanket homer for the ACC.
No, you're definitely not. You're not even a homer for Miami when it comes to that. But go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and that's what I'd like to see. Like I'm a fan, but I'd like to have a realistic view.
Yeah.
If I were a Notre Dame fan, I think the ACC has bungled a lot of things, Greg. Right? But look at this game theory. Play this out for a second. We can at least say that the ACC lawyers have been actively involved over the course of the last year about knowing what's going on with their contracts and their membership, right? That's a fair statement, right? Florida State, Clemson. Is there a world where they're so completely incompetent that 2 weeks ago, Chief Bevacqua calls them mad about like the social media posts, right? Or TV, which, by the way, the ACC doesn't control the programming of the ACC network. That's a different conversation. I'm sure they could gently nudge, but ESPN actually has control over that. It's ironic when ESPN talking heads talk about the ACC network as if they don't actually own it, even if they're on a SEC channel. But if Bevacqua and team called the ACC offices, called Jim Phillips, which he said he spoke to Jim Phillips a week or two ago about their concerns and the raised eyebrows, do you think that when they call him, they wouldn't have the, that's really kind of outside the scope of our agreement, right? Because they're just having that conversation. Do you think the ACC, when they get a call from Pete Bevacqua, doesn't look to make sure that they're not about to get themselves sued, a new grant of rights issue? I find it almost impossible. And if it turns out to be that case, and I know there's been reports of Notre Dame being copied on emails about the direction about posting, which is either incompetence or whatever it might be, but I find it kind of hard to imagine the ACC gets called from the AD of Notre Dame to the commissioner, referencing how this is not okay and that there's some sort of then out for the Notre Dame guys because the contract says they're not supposed to do that. And now a week later, they keep doing it, right, to cause Notre Dame this degree of pain, so that the message board people are convinced there's now a material breach. And all these terms that just sound so familiar to me from what Florida State and Clemson fans, but more Florida State fans, were completely convinced were going to happen a year ago, 2 years ago, as they then entered the Big Ten this past August. I just don't see how they would have had that in writing in a way that would cause Notre Dame the ability to use that as a way of getting out, and that if the ACC was notified about their concerns a week or two ago, they would have kept on going at that if those were the things that people believe are in their contracts, separate from and apart from the bylaws, which it's not in.
Yeah, I don't know. I was told, Rock and Rand, I was told, and I talked about this, and Notre Dame's real beef is with ESPN. Even though Bevacqua talks about how they felt they were targeted and there's damage with the conference, and he talked to Phillips. We were told, the door was open to us, we reported it, that Father Dowd was actually appalled by ESPN, allegedly. I'm going to say that again, allegedly.
Right.
So I think it's even a bigger issue. Like, the talking heads of ESPN has really gotten over the top on Notre Dame.
For sure.
And I think, and that happened before the selection show, and that is what one. When Bevacqua goes out there and says there's people more important than me upset about this, that he's talking about, we believe, at least we were told, that he's talking about Father Dowd and his couldn't believe what ESPN was doing. They were going way beyond Miami should be in it, basically. So I think that's Notre Dame's beef, but it isn't really being framed that way by Bevacqua, which is part of the problem. Yeah,
you're 100% right. That's the issue, right? Like, if you read everything they said, you would think it's about ACC corporate offices doing their thing on social media, literally going into wherever the ACC network studios are and throwing everybody out and making sure that the Notre Dame Miami game only got played for the next week. That's what you would think. Whereas on Sunday, after that show, they had almost everybody in college football thinking that, yes, the results might have been correct in what the committee did, but that Notre Dame absolutely had a right to be mad. And they had a lot of moral high ground to potentially get any types of changes that they wanted beyond whatever already had been committed, and could have led that charge with some degree of, with the already major base of power that they have. Instead, they spent the last 72 hours having led to something where you have Yormark basically using curse words in political business speak on a stage, knowing full well it's going to get out to help frame the narrative, and everyone has talked about it. Dan Wetzel reporting what he's done, and I agree. I don't think they're necessarily going to unschedule a game. But the point is if you're Notre Dame and you've had this power and your fan base thinks that you have had this power because you have, even if people aren't going to not schedule you, you have lost a lot of influence over the last 72 to 96 hours.
Yes, that is the story. It's the influence. It's not that people are going to take you off their schedule. It's you are now on your heels, which is and I think and that's why I think it's time for certain people to take advantage of that, like a Brett Yormark, like a Phillips.
For sure.
When it comes to the college football playoffs, because Notre Dame has the least, they have the least incentives to move to any type of AQ model beyond what it is now. because they don't
Absolutely.
care that the conference schedules might get more value. You know, they don't. That's not in their world. So I think the time is now to strike. No compromise. No compromise. Rock and rant.
And I will leave you with one thing. You should send a thank you card to Bevacqua to have everybody who's ever doubted that the relationships that might be behind the scenes don't match with rivalries, with his comments about the nature of his relationship with Miami as an example, when you've talked about in the past those kind of things, or how Florida State and Miami or other schools, I'm just using ones you've referenced, are not what the fans might think that they are. He basically validated you. So you might want to send him a thank you card, maybe send him some tears to, help him feel better.
Yeah. All
right, Greg.
Okay, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Be good, man.
You got it.
Call from
Evil Badger.
Evil Badger, can you hold on for a minute, please?
Yes.
Hey, guys, I'm going to have to leave the studio for just a few minutes. I'll be right back. Ryan, Willie, please hang on, okay? Just give me a few minutes. Got to check on Mother. Hold on. Hey, Ryan, you still on the line?
Yes, I
I
am.
do apologize. Sorry about that, guys. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks for taking my call, Greg. Hey, as far as a possible injury to Ty Simpson, when if they would have announced the possible injury before the announcement of the 12-team playoff, would that have affected their position in the playoff?
Well,
Because of what happened with Florida State a couple years ago.
yeah, according to the principles, it would affect their spot in the playoffs. Again, it's another example why that is such an incredibly stupid principle to have in selecting your teams in the playoffs, because you would just hide your injuries. It's dumb. It should be on, do you think this team deserves to be in the playoffs? And it should not be about, let's see here, who's injured, who's not injured. It was dumb. Florida State got absolutely screwed. And this is a prime example of how stupid that principle is in trying to figure out who the playoff teams are. Now, did that play? First of all, is Ty Simpson really injured? I don't know. I think there's a lot more steam on that today than there was even yesterday. And if he was injured in that game and Alabama did know it, I can't blame them for hiding it. But that's how stupid that principle is anyways. Right?
Well, it goes the same with, there were rumors that Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame was injured. And
yes,
could that have been part of the reason why they were being held out?
Yeah.
When I listened to that or watched that podcast episode, it was called the Echoes Notre Dame podcast with Michael Jr. and another podcaster. They were interviewing Bevacqua, and he actually said that the game at Lambeau Field next season in September will be a night game.
They will play that game?
At night, on that Sunday night before Labor Day.
Yes. You're talking about Wisconsin and Notre Dame,
yeah.
Correct? Yeah, the game will be played,
yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
It will be Sunday night.
Wow, Sunday night.
On NBC.
NBC. Wow.
Yes.
All right, you guys got to get your team ready, man.
I just hope we don't get embarrassed by Notre Dame right now.
Yeah. Well, Notre Dame ain't going to have their two great running backs, but they'll probably have two other good running backs. Who knows? But Jeremiah Love going in the NFL. Jadarian Price probably is.
Well, that's all I had, Greg.
All right, man. I appreciate it, buddy.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for your patience, sir. Front office sports. Utah's private equity deal appears to have eased concerns about private equity throughout college athletics. You'll see more announcements. Ohio State Athletic Director Ross Bjork. So there it is. There it is. Utah's private equity deal appears to have eased concerns. It's amazing. We have gone from the Big Ten, UC investments, greed, letting the wolf get their foot in the door, Tony Petitti trying to ruin college sport. We've gone from all that reporting to, Utah private equity, not a problem. and all these other schools are not going to, everyone, the concerns have been eased. Unbelievable. The problem for the vast majority of college football reporters, beat writers, and other college football YouTube channels that cover other conferences other than the Big Ten, the major problem with the Big Ten UC investment deal was, number one, it was the Big Ten doing it, and number two, the grant of rights was going to go out in 2046. That's it. That's why it was evil, because the Big Ten was doing it. Utah got $500 million, while the Big Ten teams were looking at $150. Yeah, but again, the cash wasn't the important part of the Big Ten deal. It was a certain part of the deal, but it was the for-profit equity. In other words, MBM, it wasn't that risky, was it? The Big Ten deal wasn't what people reported as being. It wasn't. It was a 20-year, 10%. The Utah deal is way more riskier. But the reporting ain't going to report that because it's not the Big Ten. I mean, that should be obvious to everybody, right? Right? I mean, at this point, it's really clear. Really clear. Yormark does it, it's innovative. Petiti does it, it's evil, greed. It all depends on what axe you want to grind. And everybody wants to grind it into Tony Petiti. As I said, like everybody in the Big Ten, every outside, they were all saying this is a no-brainer for Big Ten. It does. One joker in Jordan Acker says, I can't do this. And everybody slaps him on the back and says, oh, you saved the Big Ten. You saved college athletics. Now, Utah does something way more riskier. 5 to 7 year return on that investment. Way more riskier. And yet everyone's saying, it's all been eased. The concerns have been eased. The Big Ten does a deal with the risk not even measuring a tick compared to Utah, and agreed, it's horrible. It's quite clear what happened with that reporting. All right, guys, I appreciate you all joining us. I got to get going. We've got a lot of issues, as always, here at Peek Around the Corner's household. Evil Badger, Ryan, Evil Badger, thank you guys for your generosity. I appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us. A lot more going on in college football. Keep your head on a swivel. Please subscribe and ring that notification bell and smash the like button. We could be coming on later on tonight. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of DEFCON 1, DEFCON 3 situations going on in college football. Keep your head on a swivel. Buckle up until next time. From all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.